We will now resume proceedings of Finance Committee. Please be seated. When we took the break, we had just completed the outputs under the non-governmental output suppliers. We will now turn to consider those outputs on the transfer payments. Turning now to transfer payment TP49, youth programs and other non-governmental organizations for $151,525 on page 286.
286. Can the Minister of Sports give us the news first?
3-1 to Brazil.
Are there any questions?
Just a minute, sir. TP
49.
TP 4950.
49, 53, and 70. But we haven't yet mentioned the appropriation name for the others. No, we haven't. Yeah. Okay, we'll approve these in block. So all those in favor of TP 49, youth programs and other non-governmental organizations, $151,525. TP 53, other youth, sports and cultural program assistance.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether the minister would be mindful to do it, but I find it difficult to accept Childhood Obesity Task Force is part of a sports and cultural program. I don't think we should be promoting obesity in children or maintaining it on a cultural program. That's what.
It's yeah, it's in that vote because it's youth related, and it is a one-off request, and so far it's not a line item in the budget.
If
More than obesity is reducing it.
If there are no questions, then all those in favor of TP 49, youth programs and other non-governmental organizations for $151,525. TP 53, other youth, sports and cultural program assistance for $400,000. And TP 70, athlete development program, $119,225. Standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. Other executive expenses, OE 14, they're on page 289 and onwards. I'll do all of these together. OE 14, 15, 16, 17, 81, and 82. OE 14, Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute subscription, $2,500 on page 289. OE 15, Pan American Health Organization subscription, $18,000, page 289. OE 16, Caribbean Health Research Council subscription, $5,000, page 289. OE 17, Caribbean Epidemiology Center subscription, $15,000, page 290. OE 81, World Anti-Doping Agency, $6,000, page 290. OE 82, Regional Anti-Doping Organization, 4,000, page 290. Are there any questions?
Why they give the regional one less than giving the world one? Huh? Why they giving the regional one less than the world one? Doping agency, organization. Annual subscription to it. Well, two is annual subscription, I guess one costs more than the other, I guess. I would give all two the same thing.
It's not a matter of, it's what the subscription costs.
Are there any questions? If there are no questions, then all those in favor of OE 14, Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute subscription, 2,500. OE 15, Pan American Health Organization subscription, 18,000. OE 16, Caribbean Health Research Council subscription, 5,000. OE 17, Caribbean Epidemiology Center subscription, 15,000. OE 81, World Anti-Doping Agency, 6,000. OE 82, Regional Anti-Doping Organization, 4,000. Standing power of the schedule to the bill, please say aye. Equity Investments, EI 53. Ministry of Health, Sports, Youth and Culture, $4,692,489 on page 293. Are there any questions?
Well, is this the equipment for the dump, or is this stuff for the HSA?
Where is the funding for the dump? They say we-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the member. It's a combination of landfill equipment, equipment for MRCU. It's also some minor works at the annex with the AstroTurf, DEH, some vehicles, as well as I said, all of the equipment that they reckon that they need at the landfill for now. And the bulk of it, the large part of it, I would say 1.9 out of that is for, actually more than that. It's 1.9, and then you have another, yeah. 3.8 of that. 3.8 of that 4.6 is for DH. 660,000 is MRCU, 200,000 for sports. So the large part of that, 4.6 million, 4.7 million is really for DH, between equipment that's needed for the department itself as well as for the landfill.
Mr. Miller, are you satisfied? Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, I know what we were looking at in the annual budget statement, DH was $6.8 million. For all the equipment, security.
And I think that 6.8 is our overall capital budget.
Where's the rest coming from there?
That, what I went through just now was the 4.7 part of it. Then we have another 100,000 for Miss Lassie's house.
No, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, it's for DH. I just concentrating. I believe he said 3.8 there was for. 3.8 was for equity for DH, but the new equity capital expenditure for the year is 6.77.
As I said, and I was correct, the 6.7 is the overall, it's actually 6.8 is our overall capital budget.
295.
Out of that, we have 1.8, 1.9 million from the ministry side for fees for the landfill solution, which is to do with the consultancy fees and whatnot that we'll be using for the outline business case. And then the rest, the other 1.9 is actually for equipment for the DH itself and the landfill.
1.9. Yes, this 1.9 here. 1.9 here for their equipment.
Right.
Right. And 1.9 is for what?
From the ministry side in relation to this proposed solution, the waste management solution.
For consultants.
For consultancy fees. It's an estimate at this point. We don't know, but that's what we've put in.
Well, that means it has really increased significantly, because when I did it in 2006 or something, 5, whatever it was, up to 2007, it was just around a couple $100,000.
Well, I'm praying that it'll be that now too.
Pardon me?
But it was figured, it was conserved. But my estimate would have been less than this, but this is what was recommended.
By that committee, you mean?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bush?
We base this figure on what the experience with the port project is costing, and that's where the best estimate came
neither
from.
one should cost that much.
From the port, you said?
From the port project, yes, for what the EIA and everything else with the port is costing.
Another EIA.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, the port is not a dock. It's not a dump. And
It's following pretty much the same guidelines and the same processes to a certain extent, so that was what was, it was used as an estimate.
You mean we're going to do a EIA as well there?
Well, it shouldn't be no EIA.
Mr. Chairman, how much is
It certainly, if it's an EIA, it'd be a lot less than what would be used for port.
I don't know, but Mr. Chairman, I am of the view that if it's, I see the minister had said in the papers publicly that was $4 million or something like that to develop it. I hope to God that's not what it is, because we are pulling some numbers out of the sky, in my view. It may be. It may be, but be that as it may. I think Mr. Bush wanted to ask some, but I wanted to ask one more question on something else, so I'll come back to that.
At the best, it's estimates, and it'll be tendered, and it'll be an open and clear process. At the end of the day, it's a budget, and we're using best estimates at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I understand what the minister is saying, and I understand, I guess, what they want to do is to put a figure in, but they can also say, we're not going about this amount, and a certain amount And I certainly cannot support spending that money on that on a well, you not got no business budgeting that amount, if I should say so. I'm not going to support that because there's been studies there before, and in my opinion, and I'm just a layman in this thing, but you're not getting no better than what you had before. And now you're going to budget. He said $4 million in the papers, and when was in 2006 or 7 thereabouts, it was $100 and something thousand for that study that told us it was going to cost 200 or 111 million dollars. 101 or 111, whatever it was. I know it was ones and $1 million for it. So I find it difficult to support that kind of figure in this budget for that, knowing as much as we do already, and in fact when we got to skip on youth organizations and so on, I just can't support that. And Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to make my vote known when it comes to that.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
Mr.
McLean?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me, Mr. Jefferson, if you're... Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, following on with that, I would like to ask the minister how the committee knows that it's going to cost the country $100 million.
We don't know that.
But that's what is in the report.
No, it says that the process will be very likely in excess of 100 million. That's what the SOC had in it.
Yeah.
The project.
So where did that come from? That's precisely what I'm asking.
That is based on, from talking and all of the research that was done, that we know that these things, a waste management plant is going to cost somewhere between 100 and 200 million dollars.
Right.
Well, Mr.
Not
Chair,
to be incurred by the Cayman Islands government.
I know that. I was beaten to death by the other government saying that the government, PPM government will have to fine it. The government will have to fine it. But I am saying, what's that?
But you didn't do anything with it? Yeah, but so were you done with it?
Gentlemen, if I may just say, those of you who are in a hurry to conclude, the more you do that, the longer you stay. So if we could just put aside that and let us conclude the business at hand, and then we can have those little arguments afterwards.
Mr. Chairman.
You don't need to tell me nothing.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't know it would cost $100 million until the study was completed. That's basically what I'm saying. Yeah. Let me ask the minister on this. He said that there were repairs to be done at the annex. Can I get a commitment that the lights up by the Civic Center in East End be fixed? And well, I got shift gears because on the done side it's gonna cost $100 million. That's a foregone conclusion. Or you want me to tell the UDP they didn't do anything? No, I ain't doing that.
I gave that out. I thought I did that under the sports when we're doing sports.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what it sounds like. Sports all right because the same members are very short about who did what. And I'm not going to sit in here in this committee and make them continuously run down a government that they are benefiting from because they couldn't spend money if I didn't put it there.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
And the premier of all people understands that. If he want to start punching across, we let him go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Bush, for working hard. And
or anybody else.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, I ain't got no message for nobody. My head not gonna get popped in this.
Your lights will get fixed, sir.
Mics?
Lights. He's given a commitment to...
You want mics fixed too?
He's given a commitment to fix the lights in East End.
We want more than that, and I thank you, Mr. Hazard, Mr. Minister, because look like You might get me out of that starvation diet that your premiers got me under.
You, myself, and the director is going to pay a visit to that area soon, sir.
Mr. Chairman, they even invited me a visit. Now they've been up there one whole year and they wouldn't get, boy, things getting better by the day. Thanks.
I'll get you that line, tree, don't worry.
Gentlemen, we have only 2 appropriations left to complete before we conclude proceedings for this evening. So if I could just ask for you all to exercise a little restraint, we can conclude this in fairly short order. Are there any
Mr.
further?
Chairman, thanks for the compliment that Tara and I are behaving.
If we could continue on, are there any further questions on EI 53, Ministry of Health, Sports, Youth and Culture for $4,692,489? If there are no further questions, then all those in favor of EI 53, Ministry of Health, Sports, Youth and Culture for $4,692,489, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no.
I just want to make it and put it in the record that my support for this EI 53 is certainly not in favor of spending that kind of money to do a study which we already know what's going to cost us and already know the facts about the landfill. I can't support that kind of money. I won't cast a vote in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Turning now to EI 65, Ministry of Health, Youth, Sports, Youth and Culture, Seneco, $1,033,489, found on page 293. Are there any questions, Mr. Miller?
Can we have an explanation of that? 'Cause it's curious that it's the same amount this year as it was last year, and it must be some creative accounting to get to have the same amount of invoices left to pay each year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the member, it's a payment plan. Was divided by 4, so the equal amounts are being paid down. So outstanding invoices per cynical. And this is the final payment.
What are those invoices related to? Is this part of the indigent that hasn't been paid in the past, or what?
These are charges from 08, 09 for NGS 55.
Any further questions, Mr. Miller? Mr. Bush?
When I see, just help me here, Mr. Chairman or the Minister, so when I heard him saying payment, is it anything to do with any of our athletes or anything? When it says payments of past invoices, Ministry of Health, Sports, it has nothing to do with sports. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Are there any further questions? All those in favor of EI 65, Ministry of Health, Sports, Youth and Culture, Seneco, $1,033,489, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. Executive assets, EA 30, Cemetery Vaults, Grand Cayman, 100,000. Mr. Miller, EA 30 on page 295. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through to the Minister. Can the minister tell me when the specifications, i.e. the measurements of walls, was changed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies for the delay. Mr. Member from our side, the 2002 regulations call for the following: length approximately 88 inches, width approximately 36 inches, and depth approximately 72 inches. So I think this has been the normal practice. It varies sometimes within this, and I think that the depth in particular is sometimes as shallow as 60. So that's 5 feet compared to 6 feet.
What are the particular conditions under which one would vary the depth?
Let me consult. Give him the mic? I think so too.
Del Carter, Director of Environmental Health. Mr. Chair, through you. Conditions under which the depth of a vault can vary may depend on the conditions where the vault may be installed. I want to say that in addition to that, these regulations are 2002, and they're also best practice that indicates that the vaults don't have to be necessarily 6 feet in depth. And in fact, historically, that have occurred from, I think, around 1665 during the bubonic plague years. And there were certain reasons for that as just followed through over the years. And I just wanted to say that basically there are 3 depths of graves in the funeral industry. They have the triple depth, which allows for up to 3 vaults to be buried within the same grave, and the depth of that is just, I think, over 7 feet. There is a double depth, or what we would refer to as pairing, and that is just over 6 feet. And they have the single depth, which is only holds 1 coffin, which on average is around 4 feet. That is required for the vault. So there are different variations in that, and certainly with the construction of a vault, certainly it includes either you're going to be using a lot of space, and certainly there is a cost involved. But basically the conditions vary, and I just wanted to read that through, that there are different conditions.
Mr. Miller?
The 2002 policy, I think we can ignore the 16 bubonic paid one, okay, because we don't do double or triple here, right? He talking about on top of each other, we don't bury about on top of each other anywhere. Oh, okay, all right, my apologies. We don't do it on our side, okay? what is it, is there a standard required above ground as part of your 2002 policy?
Mr. Chair, through you, the preferred above ground depth would be 10 to 12 inches. And like I say, it depends on if you're in a high water table or if there are different conditions on that level could be increased. But typically it would be around 10 to 12 inches.
When the height above ground exceeds that 10 to 12 inches, is it normally an expectation that there would be some backfilling or?
To you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that would be one of the typical practices when the backfilling would occur.
But you would normally expect to be able to do in a backfilling when the grade level of the cemetery is already above the public road and there is no retaining wall next to the public road to keep the fill into the graveyard.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in such a circumstance, you may not be able to backfill immediately, but certainly if there are plans for future cemetery wall or retaining walls, and backfilling can still occur at a later date.
Can it be explained then why the most recent walls built in the District of Northside, where your policy requires 7 to 2 inches or 6 to inches, are only 53 inches and are 28 inches above the ground? This is white sand, and it is quite easy to go down 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet. All of the walls in the cemetery are an average of 10 to 12 inches above grade. Is there any justification why these walls were not put the minimum of 6 to inches according to your policy in the ground, and why do they exceed the 10 to 12 inches above ground to 28 inches above ground?
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly the situation in North Side is one that will require further review to see what can be done at that site, but overall the vaults are basically within the specifications. And at times too, perhaps the contractor, and although we have minimum specifications, sometimes that may affect the quality, but I'm not saying that that's particularly the case here. All I'm saying is that I'll review what has occurred, further review what has occurred in the District of Northside.
In the meantime, is there any possibility of, if any of those vaults are sold to people in my district, how are they expected to get the casket lifted the 3 feet into the air that is going to be expected in order to get them into the hole?
Mr.
Can't do it because of one beside it.
Mr. Chair, I've been to several funerals myself personally, and I've seen caskets held over a person's head on many occasions. So I mean, the delivering, the lifting in the vault, I think perhaps maybe a small inconvenience if it turns out to be that. But usually the funeral homes themselves do have a facility to accommodate in that process.
Would the director agree that the walls in that cemetery do not meet his specifications? And could we have a commitment to have them knocked down and rebuilt to these specifications of either 6 to inches deep or 7 to 2 inches deep and only 12 inches above the ground?
Mr. Chairman, through you, what I will say is that I will have a reassessment of the vaults in the District of Northside.
through you, Mr. Chairman, because this shouldn't be a cost to the Department of Environment. If the contractor, Public Works or whatever, did not bill it to your specifications, they should not be acceptable. They should have to go back and bill them over.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bush?
Mr. Chairman, back when the member from Northside was the minister, I brought a private member's motion here talking about which asks for several things, and some of those things were able to have been done. But from back then, we were working at the limited space that we have in various districts. That's how Bodden Town got some space recently. And we were working at space in West Bay, which plan was refused in trying to get property east of the fire station, because we, as a director, know we're now limited. I don't know. I guess one of my questions have to be is just how much space we have left in the cemetery, the main cemetery, entering West Bay, which I don't know if there's any, because they have used the very car park there, inside there. So I don't see any. And some people, Mr. Chairman, are like my family are taken to use my family's plot, which thank God still had some space from back in the plot from back in the 50s, I would think, if not before. Can the member say, can the director tell us what are the plans? We did have some property, but I know that property designated from the DART group, but because that is not all settled, that property is not available to the district. But I do know that we are in dire need of the wall space. So I don't know if you can tell me anything about the situation in West Bay. It's very, very critical. I know that he allowed, that motion allowed us to build in your yard or in your property, your own property, and so on. The minister, the member from Northside allowed the motion, and several have been doing that since then. I'm like everybody. I was getting mixed up between the member from Northside and the member from East End. But it was when the minister from East End, the member from East End, if you would hush, you wouldn't get mixed up. It was when the member from East End was the minister responsible. He allowed that motion, and we got several things done throughout that time. And I'm asking now, based on those things, whether, well, what is the situation? We're mixing the two and a half.
Mr. Carter?
Mr. Chairman, to answer the question about what is the status of West Bay Main Cemetery, that cemetery, we sold the last vault in the West Bay Cemetery latter part of last year. So West Bay Main Cemetery is officially closed in that regards. However, persons who have reserved vaults and so forth, burials will be there. But we won't be constructing any new vaults in the West Bay Main Cemetery. In the meantime, we have increased the vault constructions in Northwest Point and Boson Bay cemeteries.
Mr. Chairman, Northwest Point would have very limited space left, and so would Boson Bay. So I don't know if there was anything done with the Boson Bay to get extra property there. I knew that there was limited property.
Mr. Chairman, there's been no added acquisition to the Northwest Point Cemetery. But what we're doing, we're have at least increased the number of vaults in those to allow for the capacity of burials within West Bay. So typically we would have constructed about 30 or so vaults annually, 30, 35 in the main cemetery. So now we've taken those and distribute those in the 2 cemeteries plus what we were doing. So we've looked at the projected capacity per annum and increased the vaults accordingly.
I knew there was proposal to get some property in Boson Bay area, Boson Bay Cemetery, but I don't know if that went anywhere. I don't think it went anywhere because we ended up having to negotiate to get 20 acres, 5 of which we had proposed from the DART group, 5 of which we had proposed to develop a cemetery on. But as I said, that hasn't gone anywhere. So what you're saying is that, and we can have this offline, Minister, but I would ask that we have some discussion on it because I'm strictly dealing with West Bend. I don't need to be on the mic dealing with it because we can't otherwise. But I would like some commitment that we could sit down and have a discussion about it with the representatives because we are, as you've just said, in a dire situation where you have now closed that, and some people are already telling me they don't want to be, and you don't know how some people feel about where they want to bury their family members and so on. So it's a serious situation. So I would request that we schedule some meeting so that we can deal with the proposal. The other thing, the easiest thing is immediately they could agree with that so that we can get our land. But I know that's not likely to happen too soon.
Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Minister, for at least the last 5 years, I have been trying to get a commitment from the Minister responsible for cemetery walls. We have a tradition in Northside when people pass away that the community gets together and build walls, particularly for those people who may have some difficulty in purchasing a wall. As I understand the current rule now, in the 2 pieces of property, one which I bought down by the main cemetery in Northside by the Pagonis Church, and the 2 pieces that Mr. McLean and Ms. Aiden got onto the Old Man Bay Cemetery, the government has control of that, and they have no intention of allowing the community to go in there and build a vault for somebody in the district. I would ask the Minister for a commitment that in cases where the community wishes to help somebody, we can simply call the Department of Environment, agree on a location, and we can construct the vault free for the person.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'll take that under consideration. I would think that you'll probably incur something for the cemetery space, even if it's a minimal fee. But I see no reason why we should not allow such a procedure. You do it in East End?
No, we do it in the cemeteries that the community own. The problem was that when
if it's a private cemetery, it's a different matter, but government cemetery?
This is the community cemetery, and when the land was bought, it was bought under the clear understanding that it was going to be a part of the community cemetery. The Department of Environment would build some walls that they could sell, but the community would have access to build walls free, without paying for the space either, because the property was bought for the community.
Okay. I got you. I see no reason why that cannot be revisited and that provision put in place.
Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just want to know from the minister if we are recovering the cost of vaults.
I understand it's roughly break even, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, maybe the members from Baden Town should be bringing this up, but my engineering thing prevents me from just watching it and not asking questions about it. The cemetery in Baden Town, the new cemetery, I have seen water out against the road there at times. That is prior to the building of the affordable homes behind there, which now dams it even more. DAM now, that area even more. Are we concerned about hydrostatic pressure from that water in big rains?
I raised the question already with the director and his team, and I was told it should be okay.
We anchored them?
Mr. Director, have we anchored them?
Leave them.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I am uncertain specifically if they were anchored, but what I can say is that all of the vaults that have been constructed on our behalf has stood the test of time so far. So I would be confident saying that hopefully this would be the same. But the ones that did receive some damage was just the whole vault came up, which was easily replaced.
Mr. Chairman,
Well, I don't want my people
If we
floating
look-
down the district.
if we look at all the vaults that they have constructed, it has been in sand, majority of them, 99% of them. And I agree, it's going to take a lot to bring them out of there, unless it's Ivan. However, this is solid ground underneath there that was filled in with aggregate, and these vaults are probably about 3 feet into that aggregate, with about two or so feet above the ground.
More than 2 feet above ground.
Mr. Chairman, I asked somebody to at least build a wall around the back and the other two sides of that cemetery. I beg of you.
Another million.
Are there any further questions on this particular appropriation?
Noted,
Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, when these things are put out to bid, is it any way to make sure that the people in the community who do this on a regular basis for free get an opportunity to bid? Because the other concern I have about these that were just built up there is that the workmanship on them is horrendous. I mean, it is really, really terrible. And the people that build them in Northside are known for their abilities and expertise in building walls.
I'm advised that that will be taken in consideration going forward, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Bush?
Mr. Chairman, through you, can West Bay please give it the same consideration? Because
It will be island-wide, sir.
thank you very much, because we have a lot of people down there who can need the work as well. And just, you all have a set price, am I correct in thinking that way? So when we go to people and say, we need you to build, but this is the money you're getting, not about anyone coming in and saying, but I want $3,000 or I want $4,000. You have a set price that they know that if they can't build it for that, don't bother to apply. Thank you.
Just an observation or a comment from my part, Mr. Carter. having attended one or two funerals and actually acted as pallbearer, some of the new vaults that are being constructed, the space between them is very narrow. And I've seen people stumble while carrying the coffin. And while we can't change what has been constructed, I would ask that we give serious consideration to making the space wider between the vaults so as to avoid any serious injury at the funerals.
I think what I will do, Mr. Chairman, is have a chat with the minister responsible for Public Works, and together we will issue some directives.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? If there are no further questions, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of EA30, Cemetery Vaults, Grand Cayman, 100,000, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. That brings us to the end of the appropriations to the Minister for Health, Sports, Youth and Culture.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I believe there may have been one item in this that was not voted on.
No, sir.
No, because we were waiting on some information to be brought back, and you were asking about some contract dates and stuff. Did we actually vote on that item?
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay.
That was HES 7 this morning. That was HES 7.
Okay.
But there was some information.
For the contract for the MRA or something?
The MRI contracts, we were supposed to discuss that.
The MRI contract, yes, unfortunately, we didn't discuss that.
The chief officer has it on a list to provide.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Since
Mr.
that's
Bush,
the end,
sorry.
could I beg your indulgence for 5 seconds, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Can the Honorable Minister explain to the public why the Department of Environmental Health falls under his Ministry of Health, Youth and Culture, while the Department of Environment falls under the Ministry of Financial Services? Because logical thinking, is it possible to give rise to better policy coordination on the environment if these two agencies are under the same ministry?
Two different things. One, mine is health related, public health, and health, and Department of Environment is, as it says, it's conservation and
Okay, the public has been asking
Yeah.
that question, so just
well,
passing it on.
sadly, I couldn't have them all, so. But they've never been together.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, now that we've come to the end, I'd just like to thank your good self and thank the members of the House and all of my staff and ministry from the departments, staff from the departments and ministry staff who have faced the lime tree prickles for the last day and a half. And we're glad that we got through and look forward to continuing the rest of the Finance Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden. Just for the sake of clarity, your chief officer has undertaken to provide a copy of the contract?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Miller, is that satisfactory? Did we receive a copy of the contract, or were there questions that you...
I think there were some questions about the contract, and there were some other questions about the billing practice of treaties that were not clarified, and there were some explanations given that were, in my view, not accurate, and that's why I had asked the regulatory director down this morning, but he has in fact confirmed with me that what I said was accurate and what we were told was not accurate, in that under the regulations and the CPT code, it is not allowable to have different charges for the same CPT code. Any differentiation must carry a separate CPT code. For instance, the one that I raised about the brine, and we were told, that House was informed that there could be complications and there were other forms of brines, right? The regulations only provide two CPT codes. One is MRI for brine or MRI with contrast. The MRI with brine is the one that I raised, where we had one charge at $1,000, second charge at $2,700. the MRI with a brain is 10.4, with contrast, is 73721-26. So any alteration to the procedure must have a separate CPT code. So I would like to draw to the minister's attention that there are substantial inconsistencies in the information that I was provided in the FOI, where the same procedure is billed at different prices under the same CPT code, and that the prices are substantially different. The only difference allowed by the regulations between the -26 and the regular CTP code is a maximum of $205 on to a 1381-27, and I found at 2 instances where that same code without the 26, which the normal regulation is 1381-27, was charged at 2762.54. And I believe that there is substantial errors in the records, and I would draw to the minister's attention that the HSA needs to tighten up its finances on it, and I will further question the Cineco CEO when he comes to confirm that there is some audit going on, because that is not in the best interest of the government.
Mr. Chairman, I will undertake to provide the member and the House with the reasons for those differences. I will seek to have that done.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the regulations set the charges. There's no reason for the charge. It's a mischarge. It's an incorrect charge.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you. We've now concluded our proceedings for this evening with respect to the appropriations to the Minister for Health, Sports, Youth and Culture. And when we return tomorrow morning, we will consider the appropriations for the Ministry of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment. So if possible, I would like us to start tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. sharp. I think we have been doing quite well in the last couple of days, so we should be able to do so again tomorrow. Proceedings for this evening are now adjourned, and we will return tomorrow morning for 10 a.m. to consider the appropriations to the Ministry of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment. Thank you. Have a good evening.